Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Success Thursday this week with Karina Margole. Hey Karina, welcome back.
Hi Vasco. It's good to be back, and I can't wait for this one as well. I love retrospectives. I love successes. I love celebrating successes. So let's go.
Let's go indeed. Okay, we'll talk about success, of course, later, but let's go right away into the Agile retrospectives, which is one of the key tools we use to ensure that we and our teams can reach that successful outcome. So share with us, what's your favorite retrospective format and why?
Sure. So I like all sorts of retrospectives. I like changing them around, and I think for me, especially lately with my ADHD diagnosis and with me being very strong about neurodivergence, inclusiveness in the workspaces, I think retrospectives is one of those places where traditional retrospective formats and traditionally the way we do retrospectives is not necessarily always neurodivergent inclusive, because a lot of the times you might require people to speak up about issues that they're not comfortable with. Neurodivergent people might not be comfortable with. So I've been really looking at ways to make retrospectives more neurodivergent friendly recently. That included, I will talk about the format in a second, but one thing I've been experimenting with is no speaking retrospectives recently, which is a very interesting idea where I will have a Miro board and we will have, we might take a usual format of a retrospective like Mad, Sad, Glad, or whatever retrospective you have, and you do the first part the way you usually do it, i.e. you gather the post-it notes from people and do all of those sort of things. But then instead of actually discussing them out loud, what you do is you give people time to read those notes by themselves and post with comments and things. Like if it's in a Miro board, you can have comments and things, and people just write questions about the post-it notes that they've read, or they plus one, or they add an idea and they develop it. And you just give time for people to go over all post-it notes, and then they end up having conversations in the comments section to the post-it notes. And that kind of is a very interesting format to allow people who might not necessarily be comfortable speaking out to actually still engage and read and engage thoughtfully with the content of the retrospective. And I found that a very successful format, and it's not about the format itself, but it's about just how you structure it, so that for people who like to think a little bit deeper, for people who like to take their time, for people who prefer to write their answers down rather than speaking in front of a group, that can be a very safe way to share their thoughts and opinions and ask questions that they might not be comfortable with asking out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've always talked about, at least since I've been hosting retrospectives, we've always talked about allowing the silent people in the room to bring up their thoughts. And we didn't, at least before, really talk about why these other people might be more comfortable with silence. And there are many reasons, right? Like it could be just a day thing, or it could be like a whole mental or neural diversity topic, or it could be, some anxiety, whatever that might be. But I think it really is important for us to have in our toolbox this kind of formats that allow the people who might not feel comfortable with the more traditional formats to bring their thoughts and perspectives. And one could be surprised, because I've seen people that were usually more silent and withdrawn really thrive and flourish when new formats were introduced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this format, like I specifically, because I've in the past couple of years, I've worked with a lot of companies there's a large amount of neurodiverse people, and I think people are kind of a bit more open about neurodiversity now, and there's a lot of talk about inclusivity. It's also, there's a lot of talk about it in general. And so introducing these sort of alternative ways of, and the brilliant thing about this way of doing it is that it's not a new format in that you can use it with any format you have of a retrospective that you usually use, but just by making it a silent retrospective and adding this form of let's just do, like, the way I usually do it is I would go through, like, gather post-it notes, do the exercise of doing the comments and things, and then once the time has run out and everyone has done it, then we kind of do still a little bit of a discussion around what has stood up to you.
What stood up for you? Yeah.
Yes, stood out for you. That's the one. What have you noticed? What themes have you noticed? So you still can have that discussion afterwards, and that way you kind of can get both the people who prefer more thoughtful, silent approaches and people who need to talk out loud in order to think. You can still marry those two, but at least you're not ignoring one or the other and can actually get the benefits of both.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have many, many different retrospective formats in our toolbox, of course. That's why we bring up this topic every single week. All right, Karina. So that was the retros, but of course we run retros and facilitate and plan them because we want the teams to succeed and eventually ourselves to succeed as well. But that requires we have a clear picture of what that means. So share with us, what's your definition of success for yourself as a Scrum Master?
Oh, that's a tough one, because I think for me, what I always look for in teams is that, of course, with Scrum specifically, it's quite a there's a very set way you do things. Obviously, like, the framework itself, there's very specific time boxes, there's very specific events you do in a specific way. And within it, you still have a lot of flexibility to add, whatever tools you need. But I think understanding the why behind why there are time boxes, why do we do planning, why do we do retrospective, why do we do reviews and all of that, and what behaviors they're meant to drive. And then, so for example, the daily stand-up, it's not, obviously we all know it's not a status report. It's not just, status update of whatever. You're there to communicate with your team. You're there to make sure that you're all going in the same directions towards achieving your sprint goal. And how can you best work together today with what you know today in order to come closer to achieving your sprint goal? And for me, what I look for as a success in a team is when those behaviors that we're trying to drive with Scrum start to spill out of the events that they're meant to be in and actually start happening organically throughout the day and just as a natural thing. So you don't need to wait for a stand-up to say, actually, I'm blocked. You do it whenever you are blocked and you actually ask for help. You don't need to wait until a retrospective to bring out an issue and actually look for a solution to help solve it. You don't need to wait until your product review, your sprint review, in order to gather feedback from your customers. You go and ask for feedback whenever you have something ready. It's kind of those things. It's when those behaviors that we're trying to encourage with Scrum, they start becoming part of the team DNA, and that's just what they naturally do. That's what I'm looking for as a Scrum Master as success. Then I know that has become just their mindset, the way that team is working. And I know that now I can step away from that team and possibly focus on organizations. And these days I'm more of an Agile coach anyway, so I more work on the organizational level stuff rather than team level stuff. But that's kind of what I'm looking for me, what a success is. Because then I know that it's the DNA of the team now, and they're going to go around and spread it out. They're going to take it to wherever they go. They'll probably share it with other teams, and they then I won't say they graduate from Scrum or whatever, but they're now at a level where even if things start going wrong, they will be able to course correct because they will recognize it, because they will know what oh, wait, something is wrong here, and they'll be comfortable enough to call it out. They'll have the tools to be able to address it and fix it and course correct. So that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Okay, course correcting is a good, I think, good term to describe one of that behavior, right? Because it is inspect and adapt. That's the core aspect of that Scrum focuses on, right? So, what are I would say like initiatives, like behaviors that you're looking for other than hosting their own retrospectives? That would be an obvious one. That you want to see happening in order for you to feel confident that, yes, I trust that this team is able to self-course correct.
Yeah. So first, a very, very common one is if a team member is blocked, they tell it straight away, and they're not waiting until the next stand-up or whatever else. They straight away say, oh, I'm blocked. Can I please get some help on this, that, or the other? That's the first one. Second is if during, for example, a stand-up, someone is describing something and someone else jumps in and says, oh, actually, I have experience in this, that, and that. Let's work together on this to, let's help each other out. Let's pair. Let's do something together so that we can help you, solve that problem. There is team members calling each other out when they are not following their agreements. That's a big one. So, for example, if you have agreed that, you all, you spend one day a week together in the office. I don't know. I'm just, you decided as a team that Wednesday is your team day and you're all coming into the office and one member is not coming to the office, and you feel comfortable to say, oh, you're not in the office. What's going on? But not in a way. But and that's very important, not in a way of why aren't you in the office, but in a way is, are you okay? Is there anything we can help you with? And with the empathy built into it.
With the into it to help, of course, that's very important.
Exactly. So it's kind of like teams calling each other on not following team norms. That's a big one. And then the other one is around when teams start picking up on smells. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but when it's like something is wrong, something just feels wrong. You're not quite sure what it is, but something feels wrong. And the team members are comfortable with saying that, like saying, oh, I don't know, the PO seems a little bit more distant today and is not replying as quickly. What is going on here? Or, oh, it just feels like we're moving a little bit slower. And obviously, like if you're already a team and you have your velocity, whatever set up, then you can probably know it, depending on if you're still using that or not. But it's just kind of like picking up on just those signals that something is wrong, and bringing them up and discussing them as a team and figuring out, is this something we need to address or not?
Yeah, when I used to be a project manager, I mean, I still am. Unfortunately, I can never leave that behind. But when I used to act as a project manager, one of the things we talked about in that community was the concept of weak signals, right? Things you need to be able to detect even before they are obviously happening already, right? Like when a pattern starts to emerge, you need to be able to detect that and of course figure out how to address it together with the team. And I think that you just illustrated it, which is this idea of, I have the intuition that something isn't quite right. I don't know why. I can't really put my finger into it. Like that's a weak signal, right? It's something that you're starting to get an intuition is happening, but you can't yet point to obvious evidence of that happening. And it's very important for teams to be able to openly discuss those weak signals, because otherwise they might become huge problems, as we usually discuss on Tuesdays, before they can do something about them, right? So that's a really good insight and tip. Like, look for the teams being able to discuss and talk about those weak signals.
Yes, exactly.
Great set of heuristics. Thank you for sharing that, Karina.
You're very welcome, Vasco.
Part of a successful Scrum Master job is to help the product owner. Tomorrow we explore that critical role in Scrum, the product owner role. Tune in to learn about product owner anti-patterns, what you can do to help the product owner, and a real-life example of what a great product owner is and what made it so tomorrow on our Friday Product Owner episode. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.